Just let us know.
And we're good. We are live. What's up, everybody? Thanks for hanging out.
What's up?
Hit him with that.
Good morning,
hit him with that intro, Def.
Good morning, Azeroth.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Good day. Good evening, classic WoW lovers the world over. Thank you for hanging out with us today. This is our chill weekly podcast where we just shoot the shit, talk about gaming news, life, classic WoW updates. Not super focused, not necessarily gaping the meta here, but we're just hanging out with the boys.
Yeah.
So
Dunedain has some stuff he wants to talk about as well. BFA versus classic.
Yeah. Yep. We've got some interesting things to talk about today.
Shall we start with the news of last week? With the resign of Mike
Morhaime? Yeah. Fucking sad to see him leave, man.
So what do you think that means for the future of Blizzard?
So let me just get this straight. He resigned as a consultant, though, right? Correct? Because he had already resigned as the
stepped down
president,
and now he's completely done with Blizzard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, isn't it weird that one of the main founders? It seems like he left it not really in a positive way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, how would that influence Blizzard now in the games they are releasing in the future?
Well, we talked a lot about this in the Def Talk we did with Kargoz yesterday, but I just wanted to talk about how, the feeling of the developers and the people that are working at Blizzard. Like back in the day growing up, you had these metalhead, nerdy guys like ourselves who were, like we said, borrowing money from their grandmoms to friggin', make this work, a passion project. And, they were, metalhead, friggin' cool dudes. And now I feel like Blizzard's been taken over by hipsters. I just feel like the entire...
That's such an elegant way of putting it, too, man. I love how it's a little sensitive, like you're being a little respectful there, but...
It's what it feels like,
There's something to that, man, when you make that statement,
Yeah, it just feels like it's not as real anymore. Like Melderon was saying yesterday, it's all about the marketing. It's all about. Alex Central said, "I told my mom if she didn't pay for the sub, I'd go buy drugs." Yeah. That's interesting. WoW actually was a substitute for drugs for me.
Someone commented on the Def Talk we did, because we were just talking about this. Pardon me if I'm just saying the same thing over again, but someone commented saying that the Silicon Valley types. I mean, I live right near Silicon Valley. Have kind of infiltrated into Blizzard, and I kind of agree, man. The culture is kind of aligned with that. It's kind of this bubble. People say when you live in Silicon Valley, you drink the Kool-Aid, right? You live in this startup area, and there's two classes of people that live in Silicon Valley. There's the people who are out of touch baller Silicon Valley tech executives, and they're making $20 million a year, and then there's people who work at Applebee's, and it's kind of this bubble that you live in, and I think that's kind of responsible for some of the disconnect, because people say Blizzard is so disconnected, they're lost, they don't get it. I think it's kind of partially due to that. The culture is so
that's true,
bubbly
man.
And shit.
When we talked to John Stats, he was just such a different dude than... I'm sorry, go ahead, Dunedain.
No, I was just going to advance to my point. I was still playing BFA because I tried to give every expansion a shot, and I try to stay for the next raid tier, which is coming out, I think, next week, maybe this week. I don't know for sure. So I really tried. I subbed till the end of the month, actually, but I can't make myself play it anymore, even though the new raid is coming out, and I heard very positive things about it. But everything else is just so boring in a way, and I feel like every design decision is made with the perspective of fairness in some way, in their eyes anyway. So everything needs to be extremely fair. For example, every class kind of has the same abilities. Everyone has the same chance of seeing content. Everyone has the same chance of getting the highest possible item level gear. So in their eyes, it's very fair, but in reality, it's just extremely boring. So I would like to maybe compare it a little bit with Classic, and I thought we could maybe start with the class design.
So, can I ask you real quick? So you've been giving retail a consistent shot. You've been raiding, right, in retail for years potentially, or
I have tried it almost every expansion since Warlords of Draenor. I raided every first year. So yeah, before I mainly played PvP, and in Vanilla and the Burning Crusade I raided as well. But the last 3 expansions I tried the raiding, and the raiding in itself is okay this time. I didn't like it in Legion as much, but this time it's fine. But everything else is extremely stupid. And also the class, maybe the first point, the class you choose, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. You basically choose a role, like DPS or healing or tanking, and then you choose if you want to go ranged or melee, and that's basically it.
That's about as much as
you pick your role, pick your range or melee if you're DPS, and then you pick your best transmog, and then you pick that class, right?
Yep.
That's essentially
exactly.
What do you want to look like, and then you pick that class.
What was the thing?
You can only get a paladin if you're a warrior. It doesn't matter, but it's really interesting, Dunedain, because like I was at the same place you were now about a year ago, right, with Legion, and I was. I got really into Mythic raiding. I was doing like high-level Mythic Plus. I was investing so much time into WoW, retail WoW, and the rewards I was getting were absolutely. I mean, like I felt like I wasn't being rewarded at all. And it's really interesting because I feel like a lot of people get to the point where I got to last year, where you get to now, where like in Kargoz, you were saying about this yesterday, where you felt so just. Like Blizzard's this buddy that you had over the years, where you're like he's like screwed you over 100 times, but you grew up with him, so you give him a chance after a chance after chance. But then something happens where they finally cross the line, and you're like, I'm done, and that's where I got with retail last year. And Melderon was begging me to come over to private servers, and I had dabbled a little bit here and there, and I was finally like, screw this, I'm done. It got me to the point where I was, and like we said, that the class design, there's all these different things that have changed over the years. The fact that they're putting the game out there not just for the kind of gamer that they used to, but they want to try to get everyone involved. The people who love to do pet battles, the people who love to make everything's and it's the fact that they are trying to reach to everyone makes it so that no one is really happy with anything.
Yeah, when you're trying to please them all, right? You end up doing a worse job. Can I ask you guys, though, so you guys kind of have similar stories, and I pretty much bought every expansion, but I didn't really raid in all the expansions. I just would do PvP a lot of the time. But what was the straw that broke the camel's back? I'm really curious about BFA in general, because people are mad about BFA. They've been mad. I wonder what if you had to pick like 1 or 2 things that really just did it for you. That really just.
So I know I can answer mine very quickly, because for me, I joined Legion because Matt was there, and I wanted to play with my brother. But when BFA came out and I heard that the Horde was losing Undercity, I was done. That was it for me. I didn't have to hear anything else.
So it wasn't even really gameplay; it was more of a lore.
Well, I knew what the gameplay was going to be. It's going to be Legion again. So that part, what was keeping me intact, it was my idea of what my old ideas, right? So like what was hopes for better days. Right. But then when I realized that the Undercity's gone, Sylvanas is the war chief. Yeah. Like some of those things, I was just like, this is it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. That was for me. That was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
For me, it was a multitude of things. It was the raiding experience I was having. It was the only social experience I had within the game. So you can still kind of get a bit of a social experience within high-level raiding with what you're doing with your guild and all that. But it's completely different because all it's really about, no one cares about progression. It's all about who's got the highest parse, who's doing the most DPS. People are screwing each other because I'm a healer. This idiot's standing in the fire. And he knows the mechanics, but he's just trying to worry about who's going to have the highest parse. And like, no one cared about the guild progressing anymore. In my eyes, that's how it felt like. It was all like everyone was more worried about what their parse was going to be, what their numbers were going to be. And Titan Forging, I fucking despise Titan Forging.
Oh yeah,
I think Titan Forging is the worst system that they ever implemented because
turned it into a casino.
Yeah, and every year that I got. I didn't feel good about it because it wasn't Titanforged. I'm like, oh, here we go. My tier 4 chest is going to drop. I hope it's Titanforged, and it would be Titanforged. And it would feel like I got a fucking green or something like that. But I'm getting an epic from a mythic raid. Why am I disappointed about that? Because it wasn't Titanforged. That, alongside with the fucking artifact system, I'm sorry, with the artifacts and the artifact weapon system and how you had to just completely go insane with trying to keep up with everyone, which I did. I always made sure I put as much time as I did so that my artifact power was at the highest point, And then the other part that I hated was, now I love having different items and things for certain fights, but every encounter I was in as a healer, as a holy paladin, I had to have a different trinket. I had to have like 2 different trinkets. I was swapping my gears. My bags and my bank was completely full of trinkets and gear. And every single, if I wanted to do the best I could, I had to swap this, I had to change this. And it got crazy to the point where I couldn't keep up with it anymore. I had to write down a list of what I was using for certain things. And then the other thing on top of that were the weak auras, right? Everything in the game now, it's all add-ons. Like, no one goes and fight. Like, the reason why I think everyone can raid nowadays, because add-ons have gotten to the point now where it does everything for you. You can make a weak aura for any fight that will tell you everything you have to do in that fight. It's like, I don't know, people always say that, oh yeah, mythic raiding is harder now. It is. It's more difficult than, raiding in, mechanically wise, but there's so many different add-ons and weak auras and things that you can do to make sure, and the best thing is nobody does it because they're all worried about the parts anyway. So, yeah, I can go on and on, but those were the main things for me.
Yeah, there's some really good points there. What about you, dude?
I can't really say just one point, just like Def. But for me, basically, the difference between MoP, Mist of Pandaria, and Warlords of Draenor is so huge. And since the moment they brought out Warlords, I just kind of get bored after 2-3 months of playing it, the new expansion. And it's an entirely different game, and it's mainly because of I think mainly because of the class design and the progression of your character. So, like you say, you go in a raid and you have 2 to 3, sometimes 4 epics a night, which is way too much to start with. And like I said, every class is so dumbed down, and it's all the same, which was really not the case in Mist of Pandaria. So if I look back to it, up until Mists, I kind of enjoyed World of Warcraft until the end of an expansion, but since then I just can't do it longer than a few months. Also, I think in BFA they now try to use some of the old things again, like the buffs. I don't know if you know it, but they gave most classes their buffs back. Or, well, actually, they gave 1 buff to most. And some classes, like the Druid, they don't have a buff, which is weird in my opinion. And also Paladin. Yeah, really? No, they don't. They didn't get it. And Paladin, which was like the master of buffing, they don't have it either. So, yeah. Why
would you bring buffs back and not give them the Paladins?
Yeah, they explained it. They explained it in a blue post. They said those 2 classes bring other things to the raid, so they couldn't give them the buffs because it would not be fair.
Yeah, like a wheelchair.
That's why it seems like if something is not 100% the same, like it's not fair to the others, so they don't do it.
Yep. And I just want to point out, like what Jake Stone said here, the fact that it took him 2 hours to get from 110 to 112 was enough for him, unsubbed and haven't logged in since. So we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, how quick it is to level from 110 to 120, and how you're forced in that one zone for the rest of the expansion.
Yeah, but it's good, it's so fast, because the leveling is extremely stupid. Because every level you gain, the world levels with you. So
that's the problem.
But it doesn't have to be that way, though. Let me just
exactly.
So, like, for me, I've said this. I've kind of realized it in the last couple of years. My favorite aspect of WoW is probably leveling, not by some huge margin, but I do enjoy the leveling experience a lot. I think it's a big, huge reason why I like vanilla WoW, and
it's a journey, right?
Big journey. Like, there's just so much. Like, it really builds that investment in your character. So I really enjoyed leveling. So pretty much every iteration leveling has become less and less of a deal. I don't know if we have some exceptions there, but I'm just thinking, generally. TBC, I still really enjoyed the leveling. I still felt like I had a journey. Outland really blew me away. It was inspirational looking, like it was like this whole new world on some Disney princess shit. And then I enjoyed it. But the other thing is when they started doing multiple versions of the raids. A lot of people like this, so I'm in the minority here, but when they started doing the heroic modes and different versions of the raids, I felt sort of like when I did it on a really casual difficulty, like the biggest example being LFR or something, it kind of demotivated for me from wanting to do it at the highest level.
I think most people think that way now.
Yeah.
You think? Wait, you think? How do they think? Sorry, I missed that.
So if you have different versions of the raids, right, different difficulties, and you still get to kill the final boss. Like, to me, that's kind of the lore kind of cool factor.
I think 2 is the magic number. I think two raid difficulties is the magic number.
I don't think they could go back to 1. No.
I'm not saying. Oh, hold on. Let me say that. I'm not saying that the way Classic did is bad. I'm just saying if you're going to have multiple difficulties, you should only have 2. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the easiest should not be easy ever.
Absolutely not.
No, it should be normal, heroic, but normal shouldn't be easy. You know, it should be normal. Right. Like there shouldn't be.
Heroic should be hard, very hard.
Mythic, the whole mythic thing should remain in the Mythic Plus system. I think that's a good system. Yeah. I think it's good for the game. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think Mythic Plus is actually one of the better because that's the way casual players can do endgame progression.
Yeah.
If they don't have enough time to get into a guild with 30, 40, whatever, how many people. Mythic Plus is something you can do with 4 other people that you know.
You can't because you need some gear to do it, and
well, you can progress through it. You can do Mythic 1, Mythic 2, Mythic 3, right? So you can...
honestly, there's less things to do now with Mythic Plus in BFA than you had to do as a casual in Classic WoW, and you didn't have those difficulties. So.
Well, I mean, we're only talking in like.
I'm saying if retail wants to make itself better, this is how it would have to do it. Classic's never gonna have Mythic Plus. It should never. There's
and it'll only have 1 difficulty, and that's it.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Classic is its own thing. I don't want any changes to Classic. I'm saying if retail wants to save their asses, the way I would do it is drop raids at 2 difficulties, keep Mythic Plus, get rid of Titan Forging, bring back. So what's the whole point about getting rid of the tiers? What was the whole point behind that? Why would you get rid of tier gear? So does anybody know why they did that?
No.
I can only guess it's easier to make non-tier gear. Because they don't have to come up with bonuses.
And I think it had something to do with the new Heart of Azeroth system as well. Or something like that. They said it would replace the tier or some shit. I don't know.
But it really.
Yeah.
Alex brought up a good point. He was talking about his... he got his Cro-Magus bow off Cro-Magus. And he was saying it's the best thing he experienced since the actual Burning Crusade. Mm-hmm. And it's a private server. Why would they think it's a good idea? I think they brought this back for BFA, right? But with the artifact weapons... Do you remember how epic it was to get a weapon drop in a raid?
Oh my god.
Why would you get rid of that possibility?
I know.
It's like they're trying to make everything even less iconic than they already. I mean, at least tier sets you'd have something to look forward to.
Dude, I remember when I got a 2-hander one time, and I'm like, I was on my death knight, and I forget what I got. What the hell was it?
Well, they brought back weapons in BFA.
Do you like, generally speaking, do you like killing different versions of a boss and getting different versions of a weapon? I don't know. To me, I would rather have
I think that's
one more iconic, cool weapon. Like if you have Gorehowl or something, like you have the Gorehowl. Like I don't know. It's kind of weird when they have multiple versions of gears and.
That is like if you do normal and heroic, like say there was 2 difficulties, there should be different gear for each one. I think that would be cool. I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah,
why not?
They could be similar items. Like he could like say it's Ragnaros or whatever. I'm just say, well, I'm not going to use let's not use a classic boss. Say it's like
just
I don't know, Olden or some shit. Yeah. Say he drops off in normal, a 2-handed axe, and it's called the Axe of Oldham or something like that, and then in heroic it's called Oldham's battle axe, something like that. But they're both axes. One's better. Instead of making the same item, you know what I mean? Because like, I have the
same
heroic
graphic and
like
yeah.
They gotta
get rid of transmog. Transmog kills progression.
I think I honestly think retail's done though. I don't think there's any chance of saving it. None.
If they want to, they have to change everything back to at least as it was in Mists of Pandaria.
I don't know. I said this yesterday. They only need to cut like 5 or 10 things.
Really?
I really think that they need to cut like 10 things, and I think and we should make a list. And maybe I'll make a video about this. Maybe I'll just say these are the things that retail should cut out of the game. And I think that transmog's one of them. I think that Titan Forging is absolutely one of them. Get rid of at least 2 raid difficulties.
I agree with what Alex just said. I think WoW has buried itself too deep. Retail WoW. I think they would have to do because people are going to complain. You don't understand, Melt Run. People are going to complain. The people who I understand that, but the people who are so used to it over these years now, they're going to complain that it's too different, this and that.
Man, how much lower in subs can they get? They're like below 1 million right now.
I know.
So what I'm saying is, I would actually, I think, up this sub number.
I don't know. I think the only thing that's going to up the sub number is Classic.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that it won't be more successful. I'm just saying that if you want to have two versions of the game alive at the same time, living and breathing, I think you should listen. If retail succeeds, if it does better, if it draws a more broader audience, that means Blizzard's going to be better and get back to its core and get back to its. So I think that we should all root for
retail. I feel you, dude. I feel you, man.
Do you know that I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna play it. I'm not saying advocating go play it right now. It's not what I'm doing. I'm saying that maybe a year from now we can go back and play it. Is what I'm saying.
Do you guys think they're gonna have more expansions after BFA? They probably have one more, right?
From what I've heard, they're already talking about them. Like at BlizzCon, they were talking about future expansions.
I don't know if they will now.
Specifically,
but, right?
I just think
maybe like one more. I don't know.
I just think that they could put more effort into making a new MMO or making
like John Kevin said, WoW 2. I think that's a better idea.
Yeah, or Diablo, like a Diablo MMO. That would be fucking amazing. Or StarCraft.
Like we were talking about this yesterday. How would Blizzard wow the pants off us and get that respect back and everything? Is if they come out tomorrow, you wake up 6 cinematic hitting you like super dark and so non-Blizzard like at this point. You know, there's no Disney Moana like frozen princesses running around and everyone's got these weird anime eyes. We're talking about some hard hitting, amazing looking cinematic, and it's just everything that you loved about the old Blizzard. And then it says like World of Diablo Craft or whatever. Not Diablo Craft, obviously, but something like that would. I don't know.
But the reason why I'm advocating for cutting things is because I think it'll be more attractive to people for them to save money. If you're cutting things, you're saving money, and I think you can cut costs and make the game better at the same time. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I understand what you're saying. I just think it's too late.
I don't think it's too late necessarily, because every new expansion they go up to maybe 10 million subs again. So there are clearly people who want to play.
I don't think they'll hit that again.
And then they drop to the new low.
Yeah, they drop it really fast.
Yeah.
But every time people give it a chance because they want to play it, but they don't like it. So I think they might have a few more chances to fix it.
And you're right, because the only thing about what I love about new expansions, in which WoW hasn't done this in a long time, but it's a chance to redo the game, right? It's a chance to reinvigorate it, to change a lot of things. And I felt like BFA was just a conglomerate of band-aids from Legion. Like they just said, "Oh yeah, this worked good. Let's go on." It was like just an expansion upon Legion, and it wasn't as much of a change as people wanted, because every expansion, in effect, that Blizzard has made, they've had to make a lot of changes and a lot of new things. Like, wow, look at this, is cool, because essentially the old part of the game before that is dead. Like in BC, you really didn't do much in Azeroth. When Wrath came out, you didn't go to Outland really, unless you're leveling through it. So it's really a way for them to make it this whole new thing and like almost a new game in a way. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they haven't been doing that enough.
Yo, do you think it would be possible for Blizzard to separate from Activision like what Bungie did?
Yeah,
I don't think it's even possible.
You don't think so? That would be a bold.
I think because it's a merger, right? It's a merger. I don't think that's even possible. Is that even legally possible?
Man. I mean, anything's possible.
There need to be people who want it, right? Because everyone who wants to be apart from Activision is leaving Blizzard at the moment. So.
Maybe Blizzard is too much Activision now anyway.
Yeah.
Because you have J. Allen Crack who's leading the ship now. Mike Morhaime left. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. I feel like a lot of the core people who made Blizzard what it was are gone. And unless they had some kind of change in leadership, some kind of major change in leadership, could I see things. And that's why we were talking about a little bit yesterday about why we're afraid of what could happen to Classic and all. But when it comes to retail today and Blizzard today, they have to do things now to change the way we look at them. And I think one thing would be to have Classic be the success that we all know it can be, to not mess with it, to not put it in-game shop, to not do these things. And that could go a long way for changing the way the consumers, us, look at Blizzard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But would they want to do that? I mean, I feel like they don't really are interested in having us back somehow.
Really? think they're looking for new. They're looking for
a
new.
It seems like they are indeed looking for a new market, and I think they can make more money, or they think at least they can make more money from a new market.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I mean,
they're
making data-driven decisions to make their decisions. They're disconnected with the culture of gamers and what's cool and what's edgy. So they're making data-driven decisions, and the data is probably pointing them towards targeting China and going mobile, man.
Yep.
And
targeting Fortnite
or mobile.
Yeah.
So probably
I saw this thing. Fortnite made $2.8 billion in 2018.
Yeah, and Activision's going to Blizzard and say, "Why can't we do this?" That's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
They're saying,
because the company was founded in a fundamentally different way.
Yeah,
and I don't know why people can't figure that out. And
The beauty of Blizzard is that they took their time to make games. 5, 6, 7 years to develop a game was normal for Blizzard. And guess what? If it didn't pan out, they would drop it because they were afraid to put their name on something that wasn't good enough.
I think there's a trade-off people don't realize. Like games like Fortnite that make that much money, it's going to be a flavor of the week. In 2 years, it's going to be obsolete.
Yeah.
Right? When you make games that take time and passion and take longer and maybe don't make as much money, those are the games that have followings that people talk about 10 years later, 15 years later. No one's going to talk about Fortnite 15 years from now. I guarantee you that.
Except for the memes.
So
not even then, because memes by definition are short-lived things.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Never mind.
Basically, Classic is the only chance, because if it goes well, maybe they see there's another way than going to China.
Right. I really hope. I'm trying to just man, this would be best case scenario. So Classic is this massive catalyst, and it reminds the games industry as a whole that hey, you don't want to take advantage of us as players, and there's some people that still like the old school ways, and maybe it inspires more companies to do similar things, and ideally maybe we get up to Wrath of the Lich King with legacy servers, and then I want them to just re-release World of Warcraft. Just call it World of Warcraft. It bothers me when people call something like World of Warcraft 9 or whatever it is. Like, just re-release it as the same name, man, or something cool like that, and then have it be mechanically a different game but set in the same universe. Updated engine. It would be a different game though. You know what I mean?
I thought about that as well. Like, kind of after a while, where they could experiment with things a little bit more, where you would still have available the vanilla servers and the TBC servers and the Wrath servers, and then you could have this new experimentation of the Warcraft universe. I think that would be a cool idea, as long as vanilla and TBC and Wrath were still available in their respective.
Would you guys want a single player kind of? Well, not really single player, but you guys played The Witcher, right?
Yeah.
Like Witcher 3?
I didn't play it, but I know.
I have it downloaded. I'm actually playing through it right now.
Oh damn, I love Witcher 3. I didn't play all the expansions of it, but I played some of it. But would you like a game that was like Witcher 3 but Warcraft?
I mean, that would be cool.
I wouldn't play it, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I mean, it would be cool.
I'm not in the single player game,
but I'm more of an MMO. Like, I love single player RPGs, I do. But ever since WoW, MMOs have been like, it's. I don't know if you guys felt this way, but I love, like, games are like, I played Halo, I played all these, Knights of the Old Republic, all these amazing games, different kind of games, first person shooters, RPGs. When I, for the first time, logged into WoW Classic, everything changed at that point, right? It was like, only way I can describe this to you guys, which some of you might not relate to, but as being a recovering addict, is like when I found my drug of choice and I got high for that first time. That's the only thing I can relate it to because of what I've experienced. I know it sounds a little weird.
I feel you.
But like that feeling that I got when I logged into WoW for the first time was such an amazing feeling that no other type of games other than MMOs can even come close to bringing me that kind of feeling again. I still enjoy playing other RPGs. I still enjoy playing other games. But to get that feeling like I did in Classic WoW, it at least has to be an MMO.
Maybe there's a way to marry the two. So when I play Witcher 3, right, all I'm saying is the things I love about Witcher 3, I love how fucking AAA polished the dialogue sounds. Like, the writing is on point. It doesn't feel corny. I listen to it and I feel immersed, and I feel like they actually hired badass actors and actresses to play the parts. I just feel really immersed and drawn in, and I wish, that could exist alongside the MMO aspect of it, and, it just... I
mean...
It's a beautiful thing,
I think it can. But the other great thing about MMOs, right, is you yourself as the adventurer has to kind of explore with other people and get that same, maybe not that same feeling, but to explore it within yourself, because like WoW it draws a lot from D&D, and you create the story. That's and true. You create the role-playing environments, and that's why I think MMOs have such more of a freedom.
Yeah. You don't need A+. Because
even if The Witcher, you have like, the reason why it is so AAA and polished is that you only have like, let's say 8 to 10 paths you could go down, as opposed to like with WoW, it's like open. You can do whatever you want. You can, sky's the limit.
Right. Yeah, it's more sandboxy, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, I think adding those cutscene cinematics to WoW actually hurt it, because if you're coming from a tabletop Dungeons and Dragons kind of feel, you just killed that by having these cutscenes. Even the Wrathgate, it was an epic cutscene. Don't get me wrong, but it takes away from you envisioning anything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. That's the whole point of an MMO, is having you as the
I always found them kind of corny too. Even going back to Wrathgate, which was probably the coolest one, I still thought the in-game ones were always a little bit corny.
A lot of them are really corny. Yeah.
Like, it didn't have that Blizzard polish, man.
Especially when there's like if there's ever a goblin or a worgen involved in it, it's automatically the most horrible thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like I'm in like Beauty and the Beast or something. I just don't understand why worgen are a playable race, or the Worgen were the Aragorn brought them into the world, blah blah blah. They were enemies. They should never have been a playable race. The whole thing is weird to me, and it probably pisses people off, but that's fine. I don't care. I mean, even goblins were, and then like if you're a shaman guy like me, like
goblin
shaman?
No. Yeah.
Like how in the
even Draenei
world
is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think
they're from space.
Yeah.
I just don't. Anyway, I just think, like, some things are cool, some things are like, all right, I get it. You got to stretch, you got to retcon, you got to do this and you got to do that. But some things I'm just like,
it's too much.
Oh, we were talking about this yesterday. I'll say it again real quick. I do think when you are in charge of like a beloved IP, something that people have invested in heavily into the lore, like you have 20 books and people have spent a lot of time crafting this amazing, sophisticated universe, you have a responsibility to kind of maintain certain standards.
Absolutely.
Man. And because you're kind of breaking hearts, man. People are getting upset. Like, they've already invested so much of their life into this universe. And then, when you feel betrayed and then the person, they make bad choices, or, instead of just putting it down if you have to. I think that was the point I was making yesterday. Yeah. And Alex, if you're still in here, we were talking about this the other day, or like a few weeks ago now, that you were saying how it's like a sick animal, so you would rather have it euthanized than just drag it out into some like abomination. I kind of feel you on that, just because I would use Halo as a parallel. Like Halo 1 Combat Evolved, when it came out, I was super into it. I read all the lore. I was on the Bungie site, on the Bungie forums, like just devouring all content about the story. Halo 2, but then it got to a certain point where they were trying to make a lot of money with it, that the story just went downhill, and it just, oh man, and now it's almost embarrassing for me to say that I love Halo so much, which shouldn't be that way, because I read all the Halo books, man.
Halo 1, 2, and 3 changed the fucking world, dude.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
They really
Halo was great.
But
can we go back a little bit to... Yeah. So, about transmog, I would like to make a point. I was the only one in my current BFA guild who was not using transmog. I just never did it. I made a case of it. So I was wearing that new kind of set. It's not a real set, but they made the pieces like they match together. Right. So I was the only one looking like a clown, basically. Because it was really awful. And everyone else never really changed at all, because they all had their transmog, I think, from a few expansions ago already. So that's one thing in gear progression, which is really stupid. But another thing, with all those difficulty levels, you have like 4 now, they also have item levels which go up for each difficulty level. I think it's about 15 difference for each difficulty level, maybe 10. I think it's 15, I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, that means you have like a 60 item level difference in one tier.
Oh my god.
Then the next tier comes, and everything from before is totally useless.
Totally obsolete.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, dude.
So one thing in Classic which is really good, and something which was also kind of the case in the Burning Crusade, in my opinion, it's like you have to go through all the raid content before you can go to the last tier of content, and then they abandoned it. So many people would say that's good, but I would argue it's better to go through all tiers. What are your thoughts about it?
Also, not only that, Dunedain, but you also have you make these hodgepodge, pieces of gear that you have, maybe raid tier, a piece from tier 1 is still relevant in tier 3, you know?
Yeah,
so that destroys that, number one. If you have these 60 item level differences, forget that ever happening.
Yeah.
And the one thing, real quick, before you go Defcamp, the other thing transmog does, not only does it ruin any kind of visual progression or item progression, but it makes the devs lazy. Because
that's a good
no one's going to ever beat, like, you think like tier 5, tier 6, tier 4, tier 5, from Burning Crusade. Those tiers are incredible.
Yeah, they really are, dude. That's a great point.
Yeah, whoever made those things is a fucking genius.
I'm still wearing them in retail. I've worn the same transmog for like expansion.
It makes no one do anything new because they're like, I'm never going to be able to beat
never going to top tier 6.
You can if you fucking put your mind to it, especially with new graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
dude,
that's a good point, man.
And something like back in the day, like when you got a tier, if you were leveling and you were lucky enough to get a tier set that looked good, like you felt so good about it. You know what I mean? Like you might keep that on even though the other piece might be better. And just little things like that I loved about, like on my vanilla player, like I got everything's purple, it all matches, it looks great. Just something stupid like that. But one of the main points that you bring up with the difference in item level across all the gear, like I remember in Legion, I had a huge problem because one of the tier set bonuses was so good back from like the first tier of rating and that expansion, and we were on like tier 3, that like my mana was too low, everything was too low because that tier set was just too powerful, but the difference in item level was so far that it was like you couldn't do it. One, like you said, in vanilla, you could do that. You could have a piece from tier 1, a piece from tier 2, and use that while you were raiding. And like the power creep that goes on within retail. I mean, how can you? The fact that they have to try to work around with PvP now because you have some people that are 60 item level difference from someone else in the same tier, so you have to try to bring everything together to make it more fair. So you have that issue now what they have with PvP. That no longer can you put the time into PvP back like you did in BC, right? When PvP gear, like actual PvP gear with resilience and stuff came out. Even back in vanilla when you had the gear that you got when your Grand Marshal gear, like you put the time into that, and you got PvP gear that had higher stamina, that had more resilience, whatever. And, now you're rewarded, and you were rewarded for putting that time in. Nowadays, we got to bring things closer together by making it, a percentage. When you have 60 different item level, then you're only 5% stronger or something like that. And it's just, you're making it for someone who put all this time and effort to get all this PvP gear and to put all this time in, you're making someone who just started putting them on the same playing field, which isn't fair to that person who invested all that time.
I just feel like he's out of
just going to add one more thing. So also the gear is not customizable at all, because every piece of gear has every stat on it. Like you have strength, agility, stamina, intellect, and spirit on all pieces, and the game decides for you which one is suited for your class. So you cannot make mistakes in the first place, but you can also not customize your character the way you like. So for example, if you would like to have intellect for some reason because you would like to try something different, you just can't do that because the game gives you strength if you need strength as your main stat. So that also makes it like gear from the first tier is always worse than gear from the second tier, because the only thing they do is they change the numbers, but they don't change the composition of the numbers, because everything is exactly the same.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. I mean, and then I don't know if this is still an issue in BFA, but they made secondary stats like so powerful, so that people were going and getting items that were less item level, and just because it had more of the secondary stat. And when you add all these different things, like back in the day, you had stam, spirit, intellect, agility. Then you had your hit, crit. Haste wasn't even in the game yet. You're adding all these extra things that are just not needed. Like, they're just not needed, and you're making it so that, like, I will go back to that instance of having different trinkets for every situation or different items for every situation. Like, that right there to me is just bad game design. Like, it's cool to make someone think. Like, I love the idea of, say, resistance gear. Like, you should have to get certain gear for certain
that's good.
Certain things should be gear gated. That's good game design. But to have something where you're always trying, and a lot of guilds, in the way that people look at the game now, they change it. They've changed their outlook on, like, everything's got to be, oh, if he doesn't have this item or this, then he's not coming to raid. And you're actually kind of forced to go into this crazy fucking quest of trying to find, and how it was with the legendary system, the best item for counter for this or that. And especially if you're a mythic raider, like, the amount of time you have to put into getting these items and getting these certain trinkets or getting whatever is ridiculous, and the payoff is just not there.
I think, but so what makes it okay to play devil's advocate? What makes that not okay for PvE, but makes it fine for PvE and Classic?
What do you mean?
Having all these one-off items.
No. What I'm saying, you mean in PvP? No. Is that what you said?
In PvP and Classic, that's cool, right? That's right. Considered good game design. Right. But
you're using it. Okay, so in PvP, right? You're using.
Yeah. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not disagreeing with you.
No. See, I think you're not understanding, like, what I'm saying here. So it's great where in PvP, you have a certain amount of items that you're going to use for. You have your reflectors, you have your mind control helm, you have a certain amount of things, and that's it, right? There's like a set, maybe 12 items or whatever that you can use for different encounters. What I'm talking about is having items, right? So, like, okay, we'll go back to my paladin, where I had probably a bank full of trinkets, all different tier sets that I would use for certain different encounters and this and that, where it was almost perceived, like, in the guild, where if you didn't have everything that you were supposed to have, or if you didn't have the tier sets mixed, or you didn't have the right amount of artifact power and the right traits and all this, then you wouldn't be put into the raid or something like that. But the thing is that there were so many different combinations of things that you needed.
No, I see what you're saying.
That it didn't really even make a difference to a lot of these fights.
You're basically saying the BIS list was too large, essentially.
Right, but it wasn't. See, the thing was, it wasn't just like a.
It's not a list. It's almost like a matrix of things you need.
Exactly, it was just a mess of shit. There was too much of it. There was too much.
But what I would like to see is something we have in Vanilla WoW. For example, you can build your Paladin if you like with spell damage. You can do very good in PvP, but you can also build your Paladin like totally melee with strength and agility.
Yeah.
And it's an entirely different playstyle and an entirely different customization. And that's something you cannot do at all in retail WoW.
I mean, here's something to think about. I mean, as an overarching thing, do you think vanilla is more complex than retail? And
in certain aspects,
in a lot of ways
absolutely.
it is, dude.
Yeah.
With PvP, how you have all the items, consumables, engineering items, whatever. How like low-level items have impact at end game, and all the items, like there's so many different uses. You can think outside of the box in vanilla. Not let alone the talent point system, where you have all these talent points. You can theory craft for years and years.
I think world PvP and battlegrounds are more complex in Classic. However, I do think Arena is more complex. Obviously, because there's no comparable. There's no arena in Classic WoW, so you can't compare it.
But dueling in Classic, dueling
as well,
very complex.
It's very complex. Yes. Yeah.
But the customization of your character is just absent in BFA, so at that point, Classic is always more complex.
Yeah. It's a bold statement to make too, because a lot of people, like on surface level, you see Classic, and maybe it looks really simple to the naked eye. Maybe it looks like a slower paced game to the naked eye if you're just watching it from the outside looking in. But there's so much.
I think that's a main strength, right? Classic is really easy to understand, but it's really hard to fully master. While BFA is probably the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you know, where they ended up going in BFA with class design. I mean, you know, they were saying, oh, we're going to bring things like buffing back and this and that. And does it really even matter? Like, is it as powerful as, you know, when you're playing Alliance and you have Blessing of Salve, you know, say you have all these different things, all these buffs. Is it even anywhere close to how it was in Classic?
It's a step in the right direction, right? But it's way too few things they added back. So, like I said, they gave certain classes their buffs back, but the buffs are not the same as in Classic either. So, it's, for example, Mage. I'm going to guess This is so stupid. I made a Mage, and I don't know what the buff does because you just do it, and well, you don't read it. You know?
You just click the button and say, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
you don't even know what it does.
I think it's a 10% intellect increase, but I might be totally wrong.
So here's an interesting question: do you provide that buff to people out in the world, or are there even people running around? Because
I do because I played it on. I did it in Classic like that in Vanilla, but not everyone is buffing people. No.
Yeah, because they're probably like they probably don't even think about it because they're so involved in their single player game, which it really is for most people.
Yeah.
And that's the other aspect of it, the fact that the socialization aspect of BFA. I mean, is there any time where you're in the world and like you need somebody's help and you're going to whisper them
there is not.
Good
They
point.
tried to
I was
bring
just
it
about
back
to
because
All right.
they tried to bring back a group quest. Yeah, go on.
So, with retail WoW, it's much harder to just make new friends out of nowhere, right? Like you're just out in the open world and you group up for something. At least for me, I don't know. I log in, I'm hanging out with the same people I've hung out with for years when I play that game. Like the people I've done arenas with for years, people that I know. Is there and I'm asking because I don't know for sure. You know, like, is there a way to just meet new people out in the open world, like really at all, Dunedain? Or I mean, is there a way of forming those communities from scratch?
The only thing which I read in chat, which is also true, is war mode probably. So the PvP mode, but a problem with grouping and ungrouping is the sharding system. So if you group, you're put in a different chart, and it's possible the horde just disappears if you play Alliance, or vice versa.
So the person that's there could just be gone in a second anyway. Yeah, that's the issue. That's why I am, even though they say the sharding is only going to be there for however, I am very, very, very not happy about that.
And another thing in chat, reforging. The reforged system we had is pretty good, right?
The reforging back in the day when you can like turn in crit into haste or something like that.
Yeah, during like mist and stuff.
Yeah, it was during mist.
I thought that was,
I didn't think it was a bad thing, but it was a problem with stat bloating. I think it was because there was too many stats.
Yeah, but now we have nothing at all. So they went to the extreme, and then they just totally removed it.
Yep.
I don't know why we ever diverged from what was in Classic.
Yeah, I mean, I think what do we need more in the Burning Crusade? Honestly, it was where it was. I love the idea of having like another stat for PvP, like resilience. I thought that was cool. Haste, and then what was it? When did you start getting like spell penetration? And that was
even. It might have been in Wrath of the Lich King.
There was pen in Classic.
There was not in the no. What was it called? It was called something different in.
You had armor penetration, spell penetration.
Maybe yeah. I can't remember exactly, but once like expertise started to come in and I mean like the idea of like crit rating and how I loved how like intellect gave crit and then you had crit rating as well. You have your basic stats, you have your hit rating. I think not having another thing is not having armor weapon skill, like losing weapon skill. I love the idea of having weapon skill and things like that. Like go back to that style instead of adding all these other stats. Go back to adding weapon skills or things like that. I don't know why they ever went away from that.
That's so true, man. Man, Classic did so many things right too. And even thinking about it now, just the way items were laid out with gray items, white items, green, blue, epic, legendary. I think they struck a really nice balance. And the more and more I learn about Classic, even a lot of these white items, are actually kind of decent. Like even while you're leveling, dude. Like you can pick up a white item from a vendor, like you know, a dagger or whatever, and it's not going to be that much worse than some of the greens that you're getting. And sometimes it's even worth just picking up a white item. There's, and you know, the advantage of being able, it not being soulbound and putting on enchants on it and stuff like that too. You know, there's kind of a basically the point I'm getting is that there's kind of a niche for everything, and they just did such a good job of spreading them all out.
People say itemization in Classic is in their baby steps because Blizzard didn't know what they were doing, but I might argue that itemization has never been better after it. Because you say the Burning Crusade, but I'm not exactly agreeing. I think it's better in Classic.
I think so too.
Yeah, I agree.
You mean for as far as itemization?
Yeah, because you can customize your character the way you want, and you can use items from different levels. Like there are items which you can get at level 45.
Certain resistances.
I mean, I feel like you can still do that in BC. I feel like they just added upon it a little bit. I mean, yeah, there were some things that
I think they limited it. There was no resistances in any of the raid tiers.
There was.
There was. Well, it wasn't as necessary as it was in vanilla.
That's what I mean.
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No. I do agree with that. You're absolutely right about that. And the fact that, you know, in the Burning Crusade, the mechanics did change, you know, a lot, so that like certain things weren't really needed, like resistances. But I think there's a lot of things that I love about the Burning Crusade as well as like vanilla, and they're both different when it comes to itemization. As far as, you know, there are some really good things about like how you said certain items that are good all the way through vanilla, where I mean it was kind of like that in BC, but it did get a little, it wasn't as important like to have engineering in PvP. You know what I mean? Like in vanilla, if you wanted to be PvPer, you damn sure you had engineering.
I don't know if it was item and consumable, like super dependent and stuff. And like,
it wasn't.
You use like level
30
items like Nifty Stopwatch, Skull of Impending Doom, Tidal Charm, like weird little funky niche items. There wasn't even that many trinkets to begin with, so people are like, you just using a 6 demon bag on a guy. Like I don't know. WoW never like, it kind of lost the wonkiness of vanilla after. I don't know. Like
there's so much to figure out in vanilla, and the later you go in expansions, the more it's figured out for you. So there's not much to explore.
Yeah,
it's true.
I mean, some level 60 items and stuff were still good in TBC, right? Which that was kind of cool.
Oh, absolutely.
But it wasn't really, I don't know, as flavorful in some ways.
I think the Wolf's Head helm was
it was still best in slot.
Best in slot.
Yep, it was. That's what I'm saying. Like there were still some things, but you were starting to see a change of it. But I still feel like they were kind of going in the right direction with a lot of things. Like I know a lot of people who completely despise the fact of you know, PvP gear in the Burning Crusade. You know, that's when the word welfare epics really started to go, because people you could really do like Kara in full PvP gear. You know what I mean?
The funny thing is, welfare epics, it was a name for PvP gear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you had to have like 2.150 for the shoulders.
Yeah, you had to. Yeah, it wasn't that easy. It wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
That was called welfare gear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So just to put things in perspective.
Exactly, right? You look at that as welfare epics back in the day. Nowadays, you literally do a quest and get an epic. You do a world quest, you get an epic. Back in the Burning Crusade, you spent maybe 12 hours non-stop PvP
grinding honor
to possibly
you put a bunch of these pieces together, so you have these different versions of the raids, at least from my perspective, and then you have different versions of items, and then you also have the RNG like Titan forging system, and then all the items have lost their cool factor, their identity. Like they don't really, you know, I don't feel that compelled to get them, and it just makes for a worse experience when you put it all together.
Yeah, I can't name a single item from BFA.
The Ashbringer. Oh well, that's
single one, dude.
Yeah, especially when you're getting epics for doing for kicking chickens, or no, what was it?
Shooting seagulls, I think it was.
Shooting seagulls, and then in Legion, I remember you were kicking squirrels and picking up nuts, and you can get you can
get a legendary from that.
Yeah, you can get a legendary doing that. Yeah, dude, who
the fuck thought that was a good idea? Right. I want to know who thought
when getting
that was a good idea.
Felt like getting an epic, like you know what I mean?
Yep.
Getting a fucking blue from a dungeon was
amazing. It still feels good, dude. It still feels good going into Scarlet Monastery and picking up some of the mail set.
Oh
and stuff,
my god,
dude. It feels amazing.
Going into fucking SF Shadowfang Keep and getting your fucking robes of Aragorn,
yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that BFA does wrong and then Classic does right. We can talk about this for 3 days.
It's just to get back to the actual meat and potatoes is that I personally don't think that there is one thing or 10 things or 15 things that can necessarily save retail WoW, in the sense of making it See, that's the thing. In the sense of it, maybe possibly doing better. Yeah, okay, but making it ever where I would play it again, no.
I'd say you may be underestimating the effect Classic may have on the gaming industry.
Well, I'm talking about retail though.
I'm saying you may be underestimating the effect Classic may have on the company at large.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to save it monetarily, but I do think it can have an effect to push Blizzard in the right direction.
Yeah, let's see.
I do think that.
Let's see what the people think. One's in the chat if you guys think Classic WoW will be bigger than retail WoW. And
absolutely.
Throw a 2 in there if you think BFA or whatever, or retail. I guess they're both going to be retail, I guess, because they're both going to be coming out, but... Let's see. I hope one. Let me put it that way. I'm a little bit worried about the fall off. I have to say, a couple months after it comes out, to see how many.
So the thing is, though, right? Because will we even be able to tell who's got the more subs? Because it's all going to be one sub, right?
Dude, everybody's one, dude. There's only one dude, Ron, holding it down.
No, there's going to be just a few. Isn't there going to be just a classic option?
I think there is, but they're only going to call it World of Warcraft subs, though. Are they going to be able to? Are you able to see?
Well, okay. So you're asking. It's a competitive question. Are you saying that Blizzard's going to release their sub numbers? That's the first thing we don't know.
Yeah.
There's only one reason for them to do that, and that is if they ever go higher than the old subs.
Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah.
It's a good decision to not release the sub numbers.
Yeah,
but I think they're just going to combine the two and say, oh yeah, WoW's doing great. We 8 million subs, and it's because Classic's doing.
It'll
great,
be pretty obvious though, right? You'll see it on Twitch and stuff. Can we please make that happen, chat? Everybody in here, just for the lulz of it, can we please make Classic WoW bigger than BFA? Just so you go to Twitch and you see it dwarfing it, dude.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Oh shit! But let's be honest here, guys. Let's be totally honest here. Do you think it's even that hard for Classic to beat BFA right now?
No, not at all.
No.
I don't think it's going to be a shock if it happens. They have what? They have like 500,000 subs right now, don't they?
It's
okay,
definitely under
a million. That. Wow,
that's
no. I don't know. That's for sure. But I've heard under a million.
This is
I've heard under a million
right now. Yeah.
I don't know. I think they are probably at 2 million.
I heard 1.7,
so,
and that was before shit went down. 1.7 was what everyone was saying, and that was before BlizzCon, I think.
Man,
but there's no. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, but there's a new patch now, I would say.
Yeah.
But even then, I quit just right before the new raid.
But I think that us as the community, we can potentially affect the success of Classic, because there will be a situation where people play Classic and they start getting burned out of it or whatever, because it is punishing and stuff. A lot of the retail folks, a lot of people who haven't played in a while. How do we keep them going and to try and keep the game strong?
Is to do little fun things on the side, like have little small events, have world PvP events, do things that aren't necessarily you get your guy up to level 30. Just because he's not level 60 yet doesn't mean you can't have fun.
Yeah,
that's the thing about Classic, right? You can have fun with 4 other of your friends doing Black Fathom Deeps for 3 hours and having a fucking great time. You can have fun going to Tower Mill and getting a raid together and raiding South Shore.
But maybe we got to tell them that that's okay, Def, because maybe they don't know that's an okay thing. They
just
have fun,
I think that's a good
point.
We're
in a different era of gaming right now. Maybe everyone is just so used to the instant gratification that they just have this expectation and they get frustrated. So actually, this term is Melderon's term, I think. I think it was one of your old-ass videos, Melderon, where you're talking about Classic WoW ambassadors. Dude, I couldn't agree more, dude.
Yeah,
we gotta be good classic WoW ambassadors.
Absolutely.
We gotta go to the people and be like, guys, like this is a different beast. Like it's okay to just chill, have fun with your friends. You know, do dungeons, whatever you want to do. You know, don't get too frustrated, and you know, I don't know. I think we can have an effect on the success of it, and I hope
exactly.
We can.
If someone can't find their class trainer, show them where it is. If someone can't afford their weapon training, flip them 10 silver.
Right.
You know, like. Do stuff that's going to, you know, make that person's lasting experience. And it made me keep playing because I probably would have stopped if people were kind to me. You know, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was walking around like with talents in the protection tree, walking around with a two-handed.
Help a warrior get his whirlwind axe.
I've told this story before, right, to you guys, but just really quick. And this is so true that you raised such a good point, Melvin. So when I made my very first Torn Warrior, and I was lost in the proverbial sauce, I had no idea what I was doing. I did some egg quests in Mulgore, and then I had to go to the crossroads, and I had no idea what to do. And this undead guy just like took me on that path, you know, through Mulgore up through Camp Tarajo. And I just thought he was like the man, and I was watching people ride by me, all these different races, and I still remember that to this day, man. Like that was the guy, you know, like you know, maybe without that guy, maybe I would have quit or something. I don't know, probably not. But, you know,
and you know, it's okay to not like everyone in retail, it's all about getting to end game, right? It's okay to not be at level 60 a month in. Like, enjoy Classic's about enjoying the journey. Enjoy the journey. It's not just about the end game in Classic.
I just want to say, I think people will not quit because it's not as fast as retail, because people quit retail because it's so fast, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's say 10 million people started playing BFA, and probably the highest guess is there are 2 million now. That means 8 million people rather play a slower paced game, probably. So, I guess
or have meaningful loot drops, or have meaningful community interactions, or have, you know, all these things we can talk about. But you know, I think we should probably wrap up. We're gonna get going, but you know,
we're gonna
re-upload this if you guys didn't catch it. So, Kargoz, are you gonna re-upload it on your channel and CWL, or just CWL?
No, we'll just do CWL if possible. Yo, we had 165 people in here at that point. That's great, guys. Yo,
Hell yeah,
for hanging out.
Thanks for coming out, guys.
If you guys want to watch this re-upload, head over to ClassicWow.Live's YouTube channel. Kargoz, can you put a link in the chat for that?
Oh yeah, I could definitely do that.
Yeah, and then we'll if you guys sub up there, you'll see when we upload it to the CWL. It'll also be available on Defcamp Melderon TV via SoundCloud and SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, and iTunes. So it'll be up there too.
Yeah, boy.
You want to take it with you? That'll be up as soon as we can.
Yeah, take it with you to the gym, to the airplane.
Of course, Dunedain, yeah.
Okay.
But damn, dude, 150 in YouTube, and we got, you know, we had like 20 in Twitch at some point. That's a good turnout, guys. Yo, thank you for just hanging out with us and
thanks for listening to us talk about some.
So much fun per usual. I mean, hopefully we get to do these weekly, man. I would be super down. Tomorrow, by the way, is game show day. So, you know, we're going to be doing Who Wants to Be a Vanillionaire again, guys. I put
so much fun.
The upload.
This is such a great show.
It was so fun, man. The upload.
You guys got to come out and watch that.
It's going to be 11 a.m., so same time that this started. Tomorrow, game show day. Be there or be a retail player. Yep. All right.
11 a.m. or 2 p.m. EST.
Yep, so tomorrow, 11 p.m. PST. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. You guys want to say goodbye to the people? No.
Peace out, guys. Defcamp signing off.
Take it easy, guys. Don't take any shit from anybody. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's it, man.
Hell yeah, guys. All right, so have a great day. Hope you enjoy your good weekend and stuff, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Peace.